Hello and welcome in. In today's video I'm going to be explaining to you how to get the absolute best out of your Ellen Jo. So with Zenless Zone 0 finally out, you're probably trying to figure out how to get the absolute most out of your account, and if you went ahead and pulled for Ellen Jo, you're already on the right path because she is possibly the absolute best agent in the game. That's why in today's video I'm going to be teaching you how to build her absolutely perfectly, and I'll also be discussing different options in case you don't have all the best stuff or a lot of money to spend on the game. This video will mostly be covering how her gameplay functions, as well as what you need to be gathering up to build her in terms of her W engines, her relics, and all that good stuff. And also, you may have already noticed on the screen the entire time I'm talking will be all of her abilities and techniques and gameplay, as well as in the bottom left an indication of which ones they are. So firstly, it might be appropriate to start with a little explanation about what Ellen Jo is all about. Ellen Jo is a shark-themed /type ice element S-tier agent. She is a member of Victoria Housekeeping, and her main focus is her unique dodge and sprint mechanic known as roaming state. This ability gives her the opportunity to continually apply ice elemental damage to enemies as well as surrounding enemies, due to her large AoE/range. She's a little more difficult to pilot than other agents due to the player having to fight to upkeep this state, and this is honestly really her main skill ceiling, making her one of the best agents in the game for raw DPS if played correctly. And that's not to mention that her ice freeze causes crowd control. I'll be releasing another video soon that will address how extremely important elemental damage is in upkeeping with the meta for ZZZ, so keep a lookout for that, and if you don't mind, please support me and subscribe, and if you have any questions for me, please go ahead and join my community Discord and I'll happily talk to you. Because Ellen Jo wants to constantly be attempting to upkeep her roaming state in order to be useful, she suits best as the main DPS, which will be the main key factor informing my suggestions for her build in this video. So, of course, if you can manage it through luck or a fat wallet, it goes without saying that my first recommendation would be her best in slot engine, her signature engine, Deep Sea Visitor. This engine covers everything she wants. It gives her a large amount of attack boost, freeing up opportunity for you to focus on other stats within her gear, and that's not to mention its unique aspect of giving the player a large crit rate increase directly after applying freeze to an enemy, which is perfect for Ellen since she'll be doing that continually if she's the main DPS. But of course, you may not be able to get hold of her best in slot engine, so with that in mind, the Restrained is definitely your next best bet, being that it massively increases ice damage. In fact, this engine may even outperform her best in slot engine in some cases due to its daze function, pairing nicely with Ellen's freezing, allowing her to stun more often and therefore set up more chain attacks more easily. After that, I'd recommend Cannon Rotor, and before you can get hold of an S-tier engine at all, I'd recommend Electro Lip Gloss as a great general purpose engine. With this, we have a few options. You could focus on crit rate, which would be recommended if you cannot get the best in slot W engine for that crit rate boost. However, if you are a whale and you're happy to farm the perfect substats, you'll still want to go with crit rate either way, even with the best in slot engine, since with both, you could easily make Ellen an insanely broken agent. The setup here would be 4 pieces of Woodpecker Electro and 2 pieces of Polar Metal. With this, you'll be looking at crit rate percentage or crit damage. If not, then penetration percentage or attack percentage. Failing that, anomaly rate percentage. And in terms of the substats, you'll likely want to be prioritizing crit rate percentage or crit damage again, then penetration, then attack percentage, and then attribute mastery. The other option is going to be a defense penetration build, more suitable for high defense enemies, such as bosses. For this build, you'll be looking at the exact same stat priorities as mentioned before, for both primary and substats, but you'd be using 4 pieces of Polar Metal this time around, along with 2 pieces of Puffer Electro. Now let's consider her skills. Interestingly enough, when we take a look at her skill priority, we see that the multipliers that occur during her basic attack chain when executed correctly can actually deal more damage than her special abilities and even her ultimate. For this reason, you would want to prioritize her basic attack, after that, level her dodge skill. This will enhance the power of her roaming state, which, as we discussed before, is her ace in the hole. After that, go ahead and prioritize her special ability. This has amazing damage, however, it comes at a high energy cost, so you wouldn't want to prioritize it first, since you will see much less use of it than her basic attack and dodge. Finally, level her ultimate last. Although it's absolutely great burst damage, if you're playing her as intended, you will be basic attacking and dodging 90% of the time. Now, on to Bang Boos. First of all, you'll want to be considering Shark Boo, her Biz Boo. Yes, I just said that. This will further enhance Ellen's ice damage. If you can't get that though, go ahead and get the Butler, a Bangbu with stats that especially only work for characters within the faction Victoria Housekeeping, of which Ellen is part of. This Bangbu will give Ellen even more juicy crit rate, and before you can get any S tier Bangbus, you can go with Lucky Boo or Paper Boo as great A tier options. And finally, let's consider what Ellen Jo's optimal teams would be. As said before, you'll want Ellen to be the main DPS, and you'd want to pair her as the main DPS with Sokaku and Lycan. And if you're watching this video while Ellen is appearing as the first ever banner, then you'll be happy to know that Sokaku is actually on the same banner as Ellen as the A tier agent. However, Lycan will be a little bit harder to get, as he is one of the standard banner S tier characters. This team of Ellen, Sokaku and Lycan is absolutely broken, as this team enables a very powerful and very satisfying ice synergy. This is because of how Ellen uniquely deals additional damage if there are at least 2 ice agents on your team, and when the enemies are stunned, which in this team they will be a lot, Ellen's damage is further increased, and that's not all. If there are at least 2 slash agents in the team, Ellen's special will give her 1 point of flash freeze, which is her main resource she wants to stack. So with that in mind, she'll be able to get the odd point outside of her roaming state, making her easier to play. And if you make sure that all 3 of these agents have at least some anomaly rate percentage, the enemies will rarely ever get to move, due to insanely consistent free CC between the 3 agents. However, if you can't get both or either of these 2 characters, use anything that enables at least one of the previously mentioned ice or slash team effects. And to get the absolute best out of these teams, you'll have to have a decent grasp on how Ellen's dodge and dash invulnerabilities work, as well as how to achieve points in flash freeze. First of all, in order to go into her roaming state, you need to first activate roaming hunt, which is her dash. Basically, you just need to hold or double tap space, and then you will go into this state, and you'll be invulnerable for a brief time after activation. You can also use her dodge counter, Reef Rock, in order to go invulnerable also. This is just basically a perfect dodge. If you can achieve a perfect dodge, which is basically to dodge at the exact right time in which the enemy strikes, you will be able to go invulnerable for a moment as well as deal ice damage. But the most complicated part is how to achieve flash freeze points. Basically, while you're in roaming state, you'll want to achieve as many basic attacks as possible. You'll get 1 point of flash freeze for every basic attack, and you'll get 3 points of flash freeze instantly for a held down charged attack. During the charged attack within roaming state, you'll also get anti-interrupt level increase, which means it'll be harder for the enemy to interrupt you. On top of that, if the enemy is already frozen, you'll have a 100% chance of triggering shatter. During all this, Ellen will also have 40% damage reduction, and on top of all that, during the use of the skill, she will also be invulnerable. Overall, Ellen is an absolute powerhouse of an agent and will likely not be being replaced anytime soon as the absolute best ice damage main DPS in the game. Hopefully this guide was helpful for you in trying to figure out how to get the absolute best out of your Ellen Jo. And I also hope that you now have a better understanding of what you need to be farming and prioritizing for her, as well as what she's actually for and who she works well with. Please subscribe and consider joining my Discord community. We're an absolute amazing bunch and we have a lot of fun. And other than that, maybe watch the 2 videos on the screen as well. And if not, then thank you for watching this one and have a nice day.